Gita has just married for the second time. He had to pay 45 cows for the marriage dowry of his young wife. The price is high. The plate that Yadi carries on her lips is big, and a big plate equals a big marriage dowry. There are no definite explanations about the origin of this habit. Some think that they started to use the plate with the aim of making themselves less attractive to the slave traders of the olden times. Other theories, more plausible, attribute this custom to a merely ornamental purpose.
When I was studying in Cuba, the professor told us stories about Africa, and it was in those classes and those books where I learned about the great nature my country was hidden. It was there that I heard for the first time about the crocodile of the Nile, 6 meters of the pure muscle that make him one of the most frightening predator machines on the earth. When nostalgia invaded me, I don't know why, but I didn't think about my family or my friends in Addis Ababa. When that occurred, I imagined myself running along the lakes and the mountains, which we talked about in class, and was living among the fishermen, feeling very close the smell of wild animals. It was a strange kind of nostalgia, somehow a nostalgia about the future. I was feeling sad about that wish. I remember that I cried and gritted my teeth as if demanding destiny to make my dream come true.
Wendesen finally made his dream come true, that strong desire to live in the country. Ethiopia has an eccentric, elaborate, and overflowing beauty. Ethiopia is a caprice that the gods have granted themselves. Live nature, a harsh land inhabited by men who walk the paths that have always been there. Men like the Konso, people full of an overwhelming energy whose origin is unknown. Nobody knows where they came from or when they arrived, but everybody agrees that they are very hard-working people. When they settled here, they were nomadic warriors, but as time passed, they became sedentary farmers and ranchers. They have taken advantage of a steep and hostile land. They sow their crops in spread-out terraces that are reinforced with walls, which they also use for surrounding the shacks, thus preventing animals from entering. The Konso villages are large, some of them reaching up to 2,000 inhabitants. The walls and general aesthetics of the constructions give us the image of people of simple and orderly tastes who won the special prize for work that the UNESCO regularly grants. The Konso have a past as fighters that still remains in the collective subconscious of the population, mainly in that of the eldest. Those were intertribal conflicts that the young people have not known. However, no one forgets their ancestors, and to honor them they build wooden figures called waga, which can be seen in the cemeteries and on roads. This way, the deceased are near their families and participate in the daily existence of the living people, although in a symbolic way. Dead people are always present and act in everyday life, either giving their advice or punishing people. The social organization of the Konso is very different from that of the rest of the tribes in the social setting. In their world, the concepts of group and solidarity are followed through to the final consequences. Private life scarcely exists. Every act or thought of the individual has one objective: to comply with the community. By sunset, once the work is finished, they all join together under the shade of their shacks to play cards or just to chat. There are many Africas. This is one of them. Perhaps it is one of the most real and profound. A hard-working and compassionate Africa, responsible for its own concept of time. A continent that loves language.
The village of Murel doesn't appear on the maps. It is a place in far remote. Here lives my friend Síguenos, with whom I share my years of studying in Cuba. He has lived in the south for a short time. He asked for the job of surgeon in this lost place, and he was admitted immediately. There are few people ready to live with such discomfort.
Síguenos is worried about the sudden death of the fish in Lake Corcho. He also takes the chance to ask Wendesen about 2 orphan lions that he found caged upon his arrival in Murele. Poachers shot the mother of these lions, and consequently both have lived in captivity since they were cubs. Síguenos does not want to release them in a rash way, as he doubts their ability to adapt themselves to life in the wild, but neither does he intend to sell them to a zoo.
No, no todavía. Pero tienen tiempo de dar. ¿Habrá posibilidades para entender como si es veterinario en Jinca o en Argumento?
On their way to the village of the Caro, Wendosen and Síguenos remember some anecdotes about the years when they lived in Cuba and talk about the projects they intend to develop in this area. Upon their arrival in the village, the children celebrate the visit quite noisily, but both of them know that not everybody will be as happy. The problems and contradictions of the Caro are very similar to those of the Mursi.
The
Caro community is composed of scarcely 1,000 members. This community is the one under the highest risk of extinction. A simple epidemic or even a conflict with more numerous and aggressive tribes could mean their disappearance. Waka, the chief of the village, has been expecting their visit for several days. He tells them about the misfortune suffered by his people, and also that the fishes in the lake were dying because the lake spirits are angry. There is nothing but bad omens. Waka is not at all afraid of men, but indeed he is afraid of the spirits. Síguenos has had difficulties in persuading the Caro to accept Wendosen's visit. He initially had the same feeling of rejection. Soon after his arrival, a sorcerer told him that only the man who sits under the tree knows what the black ant of the tree eats. The next day, he found a poisonous snake near his bed. However, little by little, Wendesen has got the majority of people to trust him, and consequently, they allow him to vaccinate the children and take care of the ill, who call on him when they do not feel well. The case of the dead fish required an argument that was won by those who accepted Wendosen's visit.